The deep dive we've taken into water buffalo has been really fun. Still trying to find the downside to them. Something has got to be wrong with them, but it's not the taste, especially when somebody like Chris cooks it up perfectly.
My name is Chris Ritchie, born and raised in Little Rock. I have an Instagram page called Smoke Signals LR for Little Rock. Love to use organic spices and whatnot, especially spices like we use today. It's just a lot better to know where your food comes from. My wife and I love to entertain, have friends over, cookouts, whatever it may be. But we love to incorporate our friends and family. So today we're going to be grilling water buffalo. Now, not bison, this is water buffalo from Texarkana. Now we have two cuts of the ribeye we're going to be using today, and it's going to be on the PK grill, which is made in Little Rock. First thing we did, got our PK grill up, put the charcoal in. We want the temperature around 450 to 500 degrees. After that, we get the steaks out of the package. Now what I like to do, when I get the meat out, I want to pat it dry. The reason why I do that is because I want a good sear. All right, we don't want extra moisture. Only moisture we want is going to be from this olive oil we're going to use. So to do this, we're going to use this basil infused olive oil. You could use whatever kind of olive oil you'd like. We're going to put a light coating on each. We're going to rub each side down, all right? I'd like to do these at the same time. That way we're consistent, okay? Now, we're using this Fennel and Fire organic steak rub. This stuff tastes amazing. So when I like to season, I want to season from up high. The reason I do this is because I don't want to clump on one section, right? So I'm gonna do this pretty liberally on each. All right, same thing for this ribeye. And then I'm gonna come back and hit it with some fresh ground pepper. Just like that. Now, pat them in. We're gonna flip it and do the same thing to the other side. The main difference between the water buffalo and just regular beef is the fat content, right? So beef might have, what I looked at, 22 grams or so of fat per 3.5 ounce cut of meat. This one is down to 0.6 grams, so it's super lean. So we gotta treat this hot and fast. Steaks on. Do that. I'm gonna go 2 minutes for the final cook time. I always use my timer. I hit lap every time that I switch. My goal here for these water buffalo, since they're very lean, is 120 degrees internal. That will allow, a 5-degree increase, where I know 125 resting temperature when we slice it. You can see these things are getting after it right now. Getting antsy now. Getting antsy, it's gonna be good. All right, we're sitting here about 1:20. You know what? We're going 1:30. These guys are thin. We'll go ahead and flip. Get a good crust here. Yeah, this is looking good. We got a good crust. And it smells just coming up delicious. I did put a little post oak chips on here. That was another thing I forgot to talk about. So I did a little handful of post oak. So I like to use oak or cherry with beef. So I figured it would correlate just fine with water buffalo. Don't need much. The main thing when you put in chips, don't put your food on too soon. You want to get that white smoke out of there. You want to look for a blue hue that comes up. All right, my friends, you know what I'm gonna do? 4 minutes, we're pulling them. All right, so what I like to do, the resting, guess what I'm using? My clock. So I go ahead and hit the clock, and I know I want at least a 5-minute rest time. If you cut in meat too soon, you're gonna lose the juice. The juice will, instead of keeping it intact, it will come out, and that's what you don't want. You want that flavor profile stuck in there. So you let it rest, come to temperature, 125 internal. We're gonna slice these things up thin, and we're going to finish it with just a little touch of this Baja Gold sea salt. The most surprising thing I found with eating the water buffalo is that it's not gamey at all. It's not like a lamb or a venison. This is more so like a cattle. The texture is very similar to what you'd have with beef, but you can tell it's a lot more leaner. The fat content was not there like we thought. My number one tip for grilling would be to plan it out, right? You want to make sure you give yourself enough time where you're not rushing around, because you want to have that food ready when it's time for your family and friends to eat.